Go. All right, with that, I'm going to call this the meeting to order, April 28th, 2020. Our first order of business is the flag salute. Due to the delay, we're going to have one committee person read or do the flag salute out loud, and the rest of us will do it silently. So, Mr. Carpenter, if you would, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. All right. Notice was provided that this meeting is being conducted through virtual means due to the COVID-19 outbreak in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. As such, notice was posted on the Township website, the Township Facebook page, and provided by email to the Recorder Publishing, Burnsville News, Whippany, the Courier News, Bridgewater, tapinto.net, patch.com, and filed with the Township Clerk on March 31st, 2020. Any motion to go into closed session will be deemed to include a motion that the matters discussed at such closed session will be disclosed to the public when such matters are finally determined, and there is no further reason to prohibit the public disclosure of information relating to such matters. Public comment is being accepted at this virtual meeting from Bernards Township residents via email to municipalclerk@bernards.org. Again, that's municipalclerk@bernards.org during this public comment period. Due to the meeting constraints of a virtual meeting, we request that comments be limited to the current agenda items. And to address this body, you will need to email your name, address, and comments, again, to municipalclerk@bernards.org when it is time for public comment. So I said that. Roll call, please, Ron.
Mr. Carpenter?
Here.
Mr. Esposito?
Here.
Ms. Harris?
Here.
Ms. Fields?
Here.
Mayor Baldessari?
Here.
And just to let people know, we also have with us today engineer Tom Timko, auditor Man Lee. Pat Monaco's also on, but not on video. Mr. Bellardo's also on, but not on video.
And our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. McCarthy, is also present.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Sean.
That's all right.
And Sean McCarthy, our CFO.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much, Rhonda. Okay. Next item on the agenda is executive session. We do not have any today. The next item after that, public work session. We do not have
none this evening. All right.
Next are reports. I don't believe we have any reports.
No.
Correspondence. There is no correspondence. Correct, Rhonda?
Correct.
All right. And which brings us up to our public comment period. Public comment is being accepted at this virtual meeting from Bernards Township residents via email. Again, please email to municipalclerk@bernards.org during this public comment period. Due to the meeting constraints of a virtual meeting, we request that comments be limited to the current agenda items. To address this body again, please email your name, address, and comments to municipalclerk@bernards.org at this time, and they will be read into the record. So with that, let's take a couple of minutes and see if anybody has anything that they are looking to have addressed.
Okay. We did get one comment. This is from Todd Edelstein, Riverside Drive. Good afternoon. Why is this meeting being held at 3 p.m. instead of the normal 8 p.m.? Just like the last meeting, I pointed out there is no reason that the time of this meeting should have changed. In fact, the planning board had no problem having their virtual meeting at the normal time of 7:30. Before you try to explain away that this meeting is different because of the budget presentation, I will remind everyone watching that the budget meeting has always been at the normal time of 8 p.m. It's too late now since we are at this junction, but I'm reminding the public of this fact, and I think why are these matters held at an earlier time with less residents may not be able to view and comment.
And that's from, Mr. Edelstein.
And that's from Mr. Edelstein at Riverside Drive.
Yeah, thank you for that, Todd. And I think the reason that we did this is I think earlier on we initially noticed this meeting at 3 p.m., which was the spelling out that Sean was going to be giving the presentation then, which is why we had to stick to this time frame. But I'm with you. I mean, we're after this meeting we are going back to the regular time, and yeah, it just is what it is at this point.
Correct.
We had moved progress, so we're getting the kinks out, and this is one of them. But next meeting we'll be back at the regular time.
Right. Originally, we had to move the time earlier because of the curfew of 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. That was the first restriction that came down. Was
and then once we decided to
earlier,
go, then it really doesn't matter. But because we had already noticed it,
advertised.
That's the only reason that we had to stick with that, Todd. So going forward, know that the meetings will go back to the normal time. And thank you. I say we give it another 2 minutes, and then we can continue to move forward. Anybody that has any comments, there's a second public comment period, so I would encourage you to go ahead and email us your questions or your comments or whatever. And if we don't get it during this public comment, we will read those later at the second public comment and address those concerns. Is that acceptable with everybody on the dais? Or
yes.
All right, we're going to move on now. And again, if you have a comment or if you're in the middle of emailing your comment, go ahead and send it to us. We will get back to that as soon as we can when we come to the second public comment. So thank you. With that, the next item on the agenda is Township Committee Liaison and Board Reports and Staff Comments. So I think, Pat, if we could start with you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I just have a few announcements. One is relative to Pill Hill. We will be opening Saturday, May 2nd. Hours are from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, May 3rd, 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Residents must be wearing face covering, have your driver's license and your recycling cards. We do ask you for your patience. The Pill Hill facility has been closed for a while. We anticipate that there will be quite a few people looking to utilize. So staff will be trying to enhance the social distancing, so they will let a certain amount of cars in at a time, and they'll just have to trial and error to see how many we can get in there without having too many people too close together. There will be no mulch pickup this weekend, until we can reestablish how much traffic is in there and give people a chance to utilize the facility. Another department that's looking to sort of slow roll in would be our court. They're looking to resume operations May 7th by video conference only. Our building will just have the judge, our staff, court staff, and the prosecutor. There may not be too many cases heard, but that'll be a slow roll back into operations. With respect to our shared court, our discussions are progressing with Bedminster and the other members, PPAC and Bernardsville. And we are looking to have some further information in the next upcoming meetings for discussion with the TC. My last point would be, the census, a reminder on the county call today, we had received notice that Somerset County is somewhere around the 50th percentile of number of respondents. It's very important that our residents fill out the census. It's important to the state, to the county, and to the township that we get an accurate count. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you to you and Jorge Cascoberta, the Department of Public Works Director, and the staff for getting the everything that we need together in order to open up Pill Hill and get that going. And that'll be, slow in the coming in terms of, getting back to normal, but at least we're slowly starting to open things up. And as long as we remain safe about it, I would ask that, we get, just continue to be patient with us in order so that we can get back up and running. And, we need everybody to continue to adhere to the social distancing measures and precautionary measures that we're putting in place. So thank you very much for getting that up and running. I appreciate that. Ms. Pisano.
Yes, Mayor. I just wanted to mention that the governor, as most people are aware, has moved the primary elections from June 2nd to July 7th. And we had to make sure that the polling sites were able to accommodate this change. And Fellowship Senior Living is one of our polling locations. And they, due to the COVID-19 and the risk factor it has for the senior population, they are not going to be a polling location for us. But we are happy to report that Fellowship Deaconry has stepped up, which is right next door to Fellowship Senior Living. And they've graciously agreed to letting us move elections to their site in their building that used to house the bookstore and the gift shop. So I just want to thank Reverend Joel Davis and his staff and their administration for allowing us to use this facility for District 16 and District 20.
Great.
And it's in close proximity, so it shouldn't inconvenience voters too much.
Excellent.
That's all I have for today.
Thank you. And yes, thank you to Reverend Davis, who has reached out to the township since day one and offered to provide whatever help we needed from the deaconry. And we really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Ms. Harris.
Sure, I just have two things from the Health Department and Municipal Alliance. So first of all, I just wanted to thank the Health Department because I'm not sure everyone is aware, but Bernard's Health Department also has contracts with 5 other municipalities. So as you can imagine, their hands are very full and they're doing a great job and always with a smile. So I'm just giving them a little shout out. May 9th, we were supposed to have a Municipal Alliance event, a stigma-free concert, and Ross Farm was very gracious in co-hosting it with us. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that on May 9th, but Jesse Rubin, who is an artist who had agreed to appear for that concert, will be live streaming. So I'm just gonna give Jesse and Ross Farm a plug. And that will be May 9th at 7 p.m. So You can tune in and close your eyes and pretend you're at Ross Farm and enjoy the music. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. And yes, I echo your comments regarding our health department because like you said, they've got their hands full and they continue to step up day in and day out and they don't miss a beat. So thank you very much, Lucy, and your entire staff over there. Thank you. Mrs. Fields. I think you're on mute.
Thanks.
There you go.
I just, along with everybody else, I just would like to thank our first responders and employees and the residents who've really been dedicated with their time and energy to our community. It's unbelievable the resourcefulness that each of those people have found ways to really help and support our community. And I just want to say it's been really wonderful how many people have stepped up and started really helping and doing different things. And the last thing I'd really like to say sincerely from my heart is, on a personal note, I just would like to thank all the residents, employees, and friends for their outpouring of condolences to me and my family. Your cards and emails and phone calls have just been a tremendous comfort to me. And I just want to say thank you. It's been very difficult. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Hi. Well, first, Mayor, I'd like to thank you for your daily emails and for helping to point out a number of the folks in town who are, you know, contributing and being very generous. In particular, I want to note and thank you for highlighting the YMCA. While it's closed as an exercise facility, they're still very active and still supporting the community. They're a site for dropping off food. They're bringing it over to Bernardsville. So thank you for noting that in one of your daily newsletters.
Yes,
I also wanted to give a shout out to one of my neighbors, Karis Law, and her entire family for their Feed to Give program. They're in the food distribution business. They donated trucks full of chicken, sold it to residents at a deep discount, and donated 100% of the proceeds to the food bank. It's going to provide thousands of meals to needy people in Somerset County. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them and to our friends in Warren Township who hosted the distribution event. So again, thank you to everyone there. And that same day, last Wednesday, I also want to give a very personal thank you to the Liberty Corner Fire Department. I came back from the Feed to Give event to see the quarry on fire, and soon my entire house and yard was engulfed in smoke. There was flames shooting through the fence. They did an amazing job in very difficult weather conditions. The wind was blowing. Some of my neighbors also even had some tree and yard damage from the event. So just this very, very special thank you to the Liberty Fire Department.
Yeah, they are always there when you need them. And yeah, thank you to them. And thank you for your comments. Also, Pat, if you could just address that real quick. What have we done from a township perspective regarding that fire and in terms of just taking a look into that?
Yes, Mayor, we asked our fire official who was on the scene to go and to basically start his investigation. I have to see what the results are, basically just reiterating what the quarry had said started the fire, and for them to just substantiate that was in fact the case. They'll also be looking to see if there's any ways where that could be mitigated in the future. It's a tough situation. It's a big field. You need a spark, and that unfortunately happened, but maybe there are some ways. So on the ground right now, our fire officials looking into it just to ascertain that was in fact the way it happened, and to try to find ways to mitigate it going forward.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right. Mr. Carpenter, you are on mute.
Nothing from me, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Nothing. Good to go. Okay. Mr. Bellardo.
Nothing here, Mayor. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you. You too. All quiet there. Okay. Mr. Timko.
No, thank you, Mayor.
No, good to go. Okay. I'm just gonna, once again, I'll give my, my genuine thank you to everybody, the residents, police, health department, first responders, healthcare workers, everybody, the township staff, Rhonda, everybody is just pulling together, and they continue to work hand in hand and doing whatever we can do to make this a little bit better for our residents. And I want to thank our residents for continuing to show the patience and the resiliency in terms of what we're all going through here. And hopefully there's some light at the end of the tunnel. We're looking at some good numbers, or some better numbers anyway. And hopefully, sooner rather than later, we're going to get through this. And my list continues to grow on all those people that once this is all over, I will personally thank. But for now, I think I'm just going to leave it at that, and we will move on in the agenda. So thank you, everyone. With that, the next item up on the agenda is fire and rescue appointment. And
this afternoon.
Perfect. And then next item, unfinished business. The 2020 municipal budget and golf utility. So we have again, the presentation with supplemental data. And I believe Sean is going to speak on this on this behalf. So
sure. Thank you, Mayor.
Take it away, sir.
Let me see if I can get a presentation up. Chris, it looks like screen sharing is disabled.
Okay, I'll fix that. Okay.
All right. There we go. Okay, so we are presenting the 2020 budget for a public hearing and adoption today. As we had discussed at introduction back on March 28th, our priority, of course.
24th.
I'm sorry?
March 24th.
Oh, March 24th, thank you. Our priority is, of course, to keep all of our municipal operations funded so we can keep all of our critical services running uninterrupted. While the Division of Local Government Services has granted municipalities the option to delay introducing and adopting their budgets, we felt it was prudent, and we were prepared to continue as on schedule. So that's what we're doing here today. Take a look at the budget highlights. Since we introduced, we had one minor adjustment to the total budget, which now comes in at $41,919,307. And that minor change, slight decrease, is due to one of our grants at a reduction of $148. Other than that, no changes to this budget. Because that adjustment was a grant and it does come with a revenue item, we have no change to the amount to be raised by taxation. That remains at $20,715,836. And that represents an increase of 1.97% over 2019. When we take and apply our assessed valuation to that tax levy, we come up with a tax rate for the municipal portion of the total tax rate of 0.309 per $100 of assessed value. So those are our general highlights on the budget. An introduction, we focus primarily on the appropriations. So today I'll spend a little time reviewing the 2020 budget revenues. Of course, the revenue side of the budget is the piece that we're mostly concerned with as we work through dealing with the coronavirus that we're all dealing with. We do anticipate some pretty significant impacts to our total revenue collections this year. And of course, we're going to continue to monitor revenues and project what the impact to 2021 will be. That's really the concern, is 2021. For 2020, we have always been, and we continue to be, conservative on the amounts of revenues that we anticipate to balance our budget. So for this year, we'll go through them. We do have some areas that we feel might be at risk for revenue, but overall, I don't feel like we should have any major issues or come end with a budget deficit this year. So having that conservative approach, what that does is provide us a safety cushion to avoid a budget deficit in situations just like this. So for example, over the past 5 years, we've on average collected about $6 million more in revenue than we anticipate in the budget. That revenue then flows to fund balance and is a portion of the funds that we rely on for future years' budgets. So as I said earlier, we'll continue to monitor revenue as the year progresses, and we'll determine what the 2021 budget impact might be. There are also a few things we can do on the appropriation side to mitigate some of those revenue losses, and I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to appropriations. So now I'll highlight some of the areas that we view as at risk at this point in time. So obviously, amount to be raised by taxation, that's the largest chunk of our budget revenue, $20,715,835. As of today, we've not seen a reduction in collection over last year. However, we've not yet reached our third quarter due date, which is May 1st. So it might be a little too early to call what the impact will be on tax collection for the year. We'll likely see some changes third and fourth quarter. We do have on the appropriation side of the budget, the reserve for uncollected taxes appropriation, which is essentially that acts as a $4.2 million safety net for tax collections, and can certainly help out in a situation like this. You recall last meeting, the Township Committee also authorized the issuance of $10 million in tax anticipation notes in the event that we see exceptionally high delinquency levels and that affect cash flow. So doing everything we can to make sure that we have all the tools available to us in the event that we do see some issues in tax collection. The other major area where we consider we might have some at-risk revenue would be our local revenues here at just over $1.8 million. These are made up of fees, permits, licenses, court revenue, and interest earnings. Certainly all areas we have to expect to see impacted by the shutdown of the economy. However, as of today, because we anticipate lower levels than we actually realize, we've actually realized just over 80% of the amount that we anticipate in the 2020 budget. So here we are at the end of April, and we've already collected 80% of what we need to balance this year's budget. So that conservative approach is certainly helping. Next area to discuss would be the special items, $575,000. Of particular concern in this category would be hotel tax revenues. That tax is based on a percentage of the actual revenue collected by all the hotels in town. Again, though, overall, we have collected over half, just about 54% of the total revenues anticipated in that category through the end of April. And then lastly, one area to highlight would be our UCC fees at $545,000. Obviously, another area that we have to expect to be impacted. As of today, however, we've collected just over 40% of the amount that we're anticipating in this budget. So we were fortunate to be slightly ahead of pace for the first 3 months of the year prior to the shutdown, and hopefully, if we're able to get back to some relative normalcy the next weeks, we should be able to carry through. So in total, for those revenues that I've highlighted, we've collected about 67% so far of the amounts we're anticipating in this budget. So, here we are at about 33% of the way through the year, and we've collected 67% of that revenue. So I do remain confident, that we'll be able to reach 100% of that revenue level as we begin to get back to normal. This slide just kind of illustrates the distribution of the total budget revenues for 2020. Obviously, the amount to be raised by taxation and surplus anticipated make up the lion's share of the revenue budget, with 49.42 and 30.11% respectively. As I mentioned before, the 30% surplus anticipated or the fund balance revenue that we use will be one of our major areas of concern looking ahead to 2021. As I said, we'll continue to monitor the regeneration of surplus and react to that as we need to. This is a recap of our appropriations. We took a look in a little bit more detail at introduction. This kind of just recaps. And again, this year, as we've done in the past, we pull out capital grants and the reserve for uncollected taxes appropriation to come up with a fair, true cost to operate comparison to 2019. And as you can see, when we do that, we come up with $31,345,123 compared to that number in 2019 for an increase of 0.39% over 2019 in appropriations. I mentioned earlier there may be some things that we can do on the appropriation side of the budget to kind of help mitigate some of the revenue losses we might see. Two of those items that are always here in the budget to do that are our cap adjustment provision. This is the $4 million non-spending appropriation that we include in the budget every year. That gets canceled directly to fund balance at the end of the year. That'll happen again for 2020. Additionally, the reserve for uncollected taxes appropriation essentially does the same thing. We're always fortunate to have a very high collection rate, which means that this appropriation goes unspent and then rolls to fund balance. We'll hopefully see that same thing again this year. Maybe a slightly lower collection rate depending on what happens, but with any luck, the bulk of this appropriation should flow to fund balance. Additionally, I know Mr. Monaco's had discussions with our department heads, to discuss that essentially all spending for the remainder of the year will be limited as much as possible. So what that'll do, if necessary, will give us the ability to cancel a portion of this operating appropriation to fund balance if we need to. So that's certainly another thing that we'll keep an eye on. And then we have just an illustration of the distribution of appropriations in the 2020 budget. As you can see this year, public safety functions just slightly edging out our capital spending, followed by reserve for uncollected taxes, public works, and so on down the line. And our capital budget for 2020, we reviewed in detail in the introduction, so I won't spend a whole lot of time here. Capital budget does remain unchanged since introduction, $5,982,435, and that represents about a 2% reduction over 2019. Again, just as with the operating budget, all capital expenses are going to be scrutinized for 2020 as we continue to monitor progress. And we want to make it clear that by adopting the capital budget, it certainly does not commit the township to spend the capital budget. So we'll be taking each expenditure, each project on a case-by-case basis. And lastly, we're also adopting our golf utility budget for 2020. Still unclear on when and to what degree we'll be able to open the golf course. However, just inherently golf should be one of the easier things to operate while adhering to social distancing guidelines. So certainly remain hopeful we'll be able to do that sooner than later. So we are adopting the golf utility budget today to be prepared to do that. That's all I have on the budget. We do have a public hearing. Just want to thank our auditor, Mon Lee. She's on the meeting today. She's been extremely helpful in helping us navigate through some uncharted territory the last few weeks. She's certainly willing to answer any questions you have. And of course, I'm willing to answer any questions. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Mon Lee, for all your help with this process. Appreciate it. So with that, I think I'll open it up to, is there any initial questions by anybody on the dais?
I have a question, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Sean, can you talk about what maybe the 4 or 5 year trends are for the total capital budget? I know it's down a little bit this year, but what's the 5-year look on it?
Sure. So going back, just pull up some numbers here. So since the sunset of the open space tax, that number has been floating right around $6 million. Prior to that, it was about $2 million less. So we are right on track with the last 3 to 4 years at just slightly under $6 million.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, seeing no one. Rhonda, can you please read the resolution by title, please?
Yes. Okay, so this is Resolution 2020-0208. This is adoption of the 2020 municipal budget and the 2020 golf utility budget.
All right. And with that, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to go ahead and open public comment right now. Again, if anybody's out there watching, they have a public comment specifically with regard to this, let's email to municipalclerk@bernards.org. Again, municipalclerk@bernards.org during this public comment period for Resolution 2020-0208. And opening public comment.
Okay, I did receive public comment from Todd Edelstein, Riverside Drive. So if we've got a couple of questions.
Okay.
So the first question is, at the condensed budget presentation on 3/24/2020, it was presented the property values dropped $13,424.77 for the year 2019. What was the property values for 2018? Is the trend of property values going down, or was this just a one-year drop? Would you agree that this coming year, 2020, there will again be a devaluation of property values, mostly due to the virus? What is being done to prevent the devaluation of properties? Would you like me to stop there, Mayor, or would you?
I'd ask Sean to go ahead and comment on that, and as well as anybody else if they got it. But Mr. McCarthy, if you could.
Sure. So I think Todd was referencing the average assessed value with his numbers there. He is correct that overall assessed values are down about $120 million over 2019. That is a significant decrease. Of course, assessed values are strictly driven by the market, so there's not a whole lot that we can do on assessed values, but certainly our assessor's office is working diligently to make sure that they are assessing properties as close to true value as they possibly can, and that's what they'll be continuing to do for next year. To try to predict what the market is going to do, I certainly wouldn't be able to do that, but we'll be keeping a close eye on it.
Okay, great. And was there more to that?
Yes. Okay, so we have a second comment or a second part of that. Is it necessary to buy or replace a 35,000K F-250 replacement, 70K replacement of a 2-passenger vehicles, $40,000 replacement of a utility truck, and $70,000K replacement of Mason body dump truck, a $65K toward replacement of a front end loader, and $25K utility vehicle replacement. Of the F-250 and the passenger cars to be replaced, what is the mileage and age of the vehicles that are being replaced?
Mayor, I could take that for you if you'd like.
You beat me to it, Pat.
So, Todd, the situation we have when we appropriate money for capital is to anticipate the equipment that we're going to need. So a front-end loader, if you look at what our request is, that's funding this piece of equipment over 3 years, which means even 3 years from now, when we go to appropriate, we're talking about 4 years from now, we're trying to anticipate that what we have will last. The F-250 is a 1999, so it's going on 21 years. So, I get what you're saying, and we always try to cut back. but how we do a reasonable budget is to put the money in place. And like Sean said, it doesn't mean we have to spend it right away. But as we start to lose pieces of equipment that put us in a critical nature, we need to have the funding sources there. The Township Committee needs to give us the tools so that we can get the job done when the time comes. Because when these pieces of equipment go down and we're back to 100%, the residents are going to expect that we get things done. And so that's the intent of the budget, is to appropriate the money so that we can anticipate purchasing that when it goes down.
And Mayor, this is John. I'd like to throw something else in there too. We've used a pay-as-you-go philosophy since I've been on the committee for almost 15 years now, and well before then. The pay-as-you-go has served us really well, because when you borrow money for equipment, you add a significant amount. It's got to be at least 40, 50% to the price of that you pay in the end for the equipment. So by putting this money aside now, as Pat said, we don't have to spend it next year. We don't have to spend it next year. If we put aside enough money to replace that vehicle after 3 years, and the vehicle goes 4 years, well, we'll spend it in the 4th year. But the beauty is we don't have to borrow money and pay interest on it to replace it. So by anticipating its useful life and putting that money away, we really save the taxpayers a lot of money, get a lot more bang for our tax dollar. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Pat.
Okay. And then there was another point 3. How much money was saved in the budget in regards to the lack of snow plowing last winter? Not, but that's it. That's the question.
Okay. Do we have any? Do we have that information, Pat? Sean, was there? Do we specifically break that?
Sure.
How much money was?
Sure. I don't have exactly how much went unspent out of our snow operations. Certainly we had a very light winter, so we did save significantly. That appropriation will roll to fund balance next year. It'll stay in appropriation reserves for 1 year and then go to support surplus in 2021.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Rhonda?
Nope, that was it, Mayor.
Okay. All right. We'll give it 1 more minute. All right. With that, I am going to, you don't have anything else there, Rhonda? I'm going to close the comment, and I'm going to ask for a motion on the resolution.
I move that resolution 2020-0208 be adopted.
Can I get a second? Mr. Carpenter, you are on mute.
I'll second. I too was on mute.
Okay. All right, second. Roll call, please.
Okay. Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Fields?
Yes.
And Mayor Baldessari?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. And thank you again to Sean, Mon-Lee. Thank you very much for everything that you guys have done on this budget. Appreciate it. It's not an easy time.
Thanks, Mayor.
And Mayor, could I chime in on this a little bit?
Sure. You there, John? You froze up, and now you're on mute.
How about now?
Now you're good.
Okay. I'd like to thank Sean and his team for the great job that they've done. And I want to recognize that the robust physical situation that we're in Berners Township helps us to weather this crisis, I'd say better than probably every other town in the state of New Jersey. We have no debt. Our taxes are the lowest in the state of New Jersey. Our reserves are strong, and we have really responsible, conservative budgeting principles so that we don't get caught by things that cost more than we thought they were going to cost, and we don't get cut short with unrealistic revenue anticipations. That pay-as-you-go philosophy that I mentioned earlier really is paying dividends here. So I just want to thank everyone for their work on the budget, and on to 2021.
I agree.
Well said.
Thank you.
Well said. Thank you. All right. Moving on. Ordinance number 2444.
This is accepting a roof drain detention system and access easement on property located at 3048 Valley Road, Block 8201, Lot 25, from Shabbat Center of Somerset County, Inc., to the Township of Bernards, and this is a public hearing.
All right, this is also a public hearing, so I'm going to go ahead and open up public comment now. Anybody who wishes to comment on this ordinance 2444, please email municipalclerk@bernards.org, municipalclerk@bernards.org during this public comment period. And to address this body, please email your name, address, and comments. Again, municipalclerk@bernards.org at this time so we can read them into the record.
And Mayor, while we're waiting for public comments with that, I did have another public comment that came in. From Peter Avioli of 4 Normandy Court. He's asking if the state cannot fund our schools and other local entities at the same level as last year, would our contingency in town be to increase property taxes above the 2% increase cap, or to readjust the school and municipal budgets to stay within the 2% increase cap, as this financial risk appears right now? That was the question.
I can take that one if you like, Mayor.
Please.
Sure. So the state aid portion of our revenue is about 1.7 million, which is a relatively small piece of the pie. If in fact, for whatever reason, we were to not get state aid, our surplus, our reserve should be able to float that without passing the burden on to the taxpayer. I certainly would hope that wouldn't be the case. Prior to the coronavirus issues beginning, the governor did indicate that state aid levels would be the same as last year. They are, of course, contingent on the state passing their budget, which they've announced they won't be doing until September 30th. But I would have to imagine that the state and the governor is well aware of the position that that would be putting all municipalities in the state into if they were to not be able to fund state aid.
Thank you.
And I have not received any comments for this public hearing with Shabbat.
And I'm sorry, what was the last gentleman's name that asked that last question?
Yes, it was Mr. Peter Avioli, A-V-I-O-L-I.
Mr. Avioli, I hope Sean answered your questions, but if he did not, please by all means go ahead and email us back and let us know if there's something that he missed or there's something that additional that you want to know, please. And thank you for your comment and your question. We have not received any questions on 2444, correct?
Correct.
All right, seeing that, I'm going to close public comments and I'm going to ask for a motion.
Mayor, I move that ordinance 2444 be adopted and advertised as required by law.
All right, can I get a second?
Second.
I'll second.
All right. Okay, great, thank you. Roll call, please, Rhonda.
Okay, Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Fields,
Yes.
Mayor Baldessari,
Yes.
and motion carries.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, ordinance 2445.
Okay, this is accepting a wetlands conservation easement and a stream buffer conservation easement on property located at 510 South Maple Ave, Block 3301, Lot 2, from Anthony and Maria Splendorio to the Township of Bernards, and this is a public hearing.
Right. With that public hearing, I'm going to open public hearing and welcome comments. Again, if you have any comments regarding 2445, email them now to municipalclerk@bernards.org. Again, municipalclerk@bernards.org. And public comment is open. We'll give this another minute.
Mayor, this is John Carpenter. I'm going to have to drop off.
All right, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone.
Have a good afternoon. All right, Rhonda, nothing, right?
No.
All right, seeing no one, I'm going to close public comment at this point, and I'm going to ask for a motion on the ordinance.
I'll move that ordinance.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Joan.
I'll move that ordinance 2445 be adopted and advertised as required by law.
Okay, have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any comments? No comments. Roll call, please, Rhonda.
And Mr. Esposito,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Field,
Yes.
Mayor Baldessari,
Yes.
okay, motion carries.
All right. 5. Right. So then the next item up on the agenda is ordinance number 2446.
Okay, this is an ordinance of the Township of Bernards appropriating $4,912,435 for various capital improvements, and this is an introduction.
Okay. All right. Can I have a motion on ordinance 2446?
I move that ordinance 2446 be introduced on first reading, advertised as required by law, and scheduled for a public hearing on May 12th, 2020.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? No. Roll call, please, Rhonda.
Okay, Mr. Esposito,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Fields,
Yes.
Mayor Baldessari.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
All right. All right. And that will bring us to the consent agenda. The items listed within the consent agenda portion of the meeting have been referred to the Township Committee for reading and study, linked to the posted agenda, and are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion of the Township Committee with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is required, the item may be removed from the agenda by Township Committee action and placed on the regular agenda under new business. Are there any items under the consent agenda that anybody would like removed? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to move the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
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 Roll call, please, Rhonda.
Mr. Esposito,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Fields,
Yes.
Mayor Baldessari.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Which brings us to the last portion of the public comment.
The minutes, Jim.
I'm sorry?
The minutes from last meeting.
Oh, we get the minutes? Where are they? I'm sorry. Thank you. I missed the minutes. Yeah, item C. Okay, approval of minutes. April 14th, 2020 open session minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review those? And if you had, can I get a motion on the minutes?
So moved. I move to approve the minutes.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Roll call, please, Rhonda.
Mr. Esposito,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Fields,
Yes.
What?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I wasn't here. Sorry.
That's right. You got to recuse.
Mayor Baldessari.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And then thank you, Joe.
Sure.
Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, last public comment for the evening. Public comment is being accepted at this virtual meeting for Bernards Township residents. Again, email to municipalclerk@bernards.org during this public comment period. Due to the meeting constraints and a virtual meeting, we request that comments be limited to current agenda items. To address this body, please email your name, address, and comments to municipalclerk@bernards.org at this time, and they will be read into the record. So second public comment is now open.
Okay, we received a comment from Todd Edelstein, Riverside Drive. Thank you for answering my questions. I'm not a typist, so I have to pre-write my questions by at least 30 minutes ahead of to make things easier to make it easier to move things along. Maybe the township clerk could have a sign up made to flash out whoever is supposed to speak. The sign says unmute. Okay, and then the second part of this comment is, if I read it correctly in the budget for engineering, I'm glad to see that some movement is being made towards an elevator in Town Hall. This is something I have been advocating for many years to make up to the meeting room more handicap friendly. And thank you.
Thank you, Todd. I think we'll give it another minute or two. And again, if there's due to a delay or anything like that, if you're out there, if you're watching and you have a question, by all means, go ahead and email it to us, myself or any one of my colleagues here, and we'll be more than happy to get back to you as soon as we can with an answer. Okay. Nothing else, Rhonda? No?
No, I do not see anything else.
All right. With that, again, if you're out there, if you have a question or comment, by all means, feel free to email myself or any one of my colleagues on the Township Committee, and we will be happy to get back to you as soon as possible with an answer to your question or concern. With that, I'd like to say thank you, Rhonda. Thanks, everybody that's on the call. Chris Kiriakou, thank you very much for coordinating everything, continuing to go above and beyond. I appreciate it. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Okay. You got a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much. I appreciate it, everybody.
Thank you. Stay safe, everybody.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.